The 1961 F1 season ushered in a new era in the sport. Gone were the 2.5 engines in favor of the smaller 1.5s as dictated by the new F2 engines rule set. By now all constructors had also switched to the rear-to-mid-engine layouts that won the title the past 2 seasons with Jack Brabham in his Cooper Climax cars. 1961 was mostly remembered for the title success for Ferrari with their splendid 156 Sharknose, with American Phil Hill behind the wheel. This triumph was very much marred by tragedy, which saw Hill's Ferrari teammate and title favorite Wolfgang von Trips lose his life along with 14 spectators during that fateful race in Monza. The Monaco Grand Prix was the season's opener that year. Gone was the Indy 500 from the calendar too, so all teams and drivers could now focus on the real F1 races. On a sweltering Monte Carlo weekend, it was Stirling Moss who had taken pole for the race in his Rob Walker entered privateer Lotus 18. The Climax-engined Lotus lacked the horsepower of the Ferraris, but its agile and nimble chassis, along with Sir Stirling Moss's driving talent, had put it top of the bunch. For the grueling 100-lap race, Moss had decided to remove some of the panels of the car to improve cooling for himself and his machine. This made for these unique pictures of the semi-naked Lotus 18 bouncing around on Monaco's notoriously tight confines. At the start of the race, Moss dropped to third behind Ginter's Ferrari and Clark's new model Lotus 21. The Scot, however, quickly ran into troubles with his fuel pump and had to retire from the race. When Moss then overtook Ginter for the lead later on, he was determined to stay there. A late surge by the Ferraris of Ginter and Phil Hill didn't materialize, and Moss took a hard-earned victory in the streets of the Principality after more than 2.5 hours of racing. In Autosport magazine's feature Race of My Life, Stirling surprisingly chose this Monaco victory over his impressive Mille Miglia win with Mercedes in 1955. It is very much a forgotten victory as through time most only remember Moss for that Mille Miglia win or his successes next to Juan Manuel Fangio in the 1950s Silver Arrows era. To say Moss is most famous for being the best F1 driver to never win a title is doing his prize-filled career and huge talent injustice. This Monaco 1961 race paints a much better picture of what Sir Stirling Moss was all about, one of motorsport's true greats. I remember when I first read about a 1/18th model being produced of Moss's Lotus 18 from the 1961 Monaco race, I was really excited. Pictures of the open-bodied Lotus exposing its driver had always fascinated me, and now someone would finally produce a bigger scale model of it. It was then finally released in late 2020, quite some time after first reading about it in the Diecast Legends magazine. It was them who initially commissioned a 1/18th version with SMTS, a small British company specializing in kits and hand-built models. They later, however, switched to the Italian brand Tecnomodel to build their Lotus 18 car. The Diecast Legends versions was supposed to be a driverless model limited to 250 pieces. However, I've only seen samples of it. Most pictures I found were of the version that I have here, the Tecnomodel Mythos model, with a driver figurine that is limited to 310 pieces. Now, I've seen some web shops that claim that it's limited to 150 pieces, but it clearly states here it's 310, and as far as I know, there is only this one version that exists. The Mythos moniker is just a specific collection from Tecnomodel this model is part of. A 143 version is out too by Spark, which is very nice of course, as you would expect from that brand. To my knowledge, they have not yet made any plans to make a 1/18th version. I actually missed out on the original Tecnomodel release, so I had to buy this one on eBay. And unfortunately, it arrived to me in a sorry state with the windshield that came off and one of the mirrors too. And I managed to put it back together, but I can't say I was too pleased when I first unpacked it. It seems luck is not really on my side with my last few purchases. So the model then comes in a Tecnomodel branded glossy black box, and it has a grey sleeve around it with the classic Team Lotus logo center stage and the mention that it's approved and licensed by the company. The black box then has Tecnomodel Mythos logos all over and the company's contact details on the bottom. This side then has a sticker with the specific model's info on it, and here you can see too it's a limited edition of 310 pieces. The top cover then can be removed by just simply sliding it off. The bottom has this opening flap, but the model is hidden by these black cardboard plates, and these hold the model in place in the box, but I would have expected to see a display case here, especially since Tecnomodel is supposed to be a premium brand. They do sell the Perspex case separately, but given the steep retail price of this model car, it should have been included as standard, I think. The base the model comes on is pretty fancy. It has this quite thick grey soft fabric carpet almost underneath the car. In front of the model is a metallic plaque with its info printed on it in this black part and a big Tecnomodel Mythos logo. It leaves quite a large part blank, as if it's prepared for a signature, but since Sir Stirling Moss had sadly already passed away by the model's release date, it's a bit of a wasted space. With Tecnomodel being a premium brand and it costing a pretty penny, you would assume this model is pretty much perfect then. But, well, maybe unsurprisingly, it's not. Far from it, in fact. First of all, the level of detail is pretty superficial. Especially since it's a half-open model, I would expect that the parts shown are somewhat detailed. I knew from seeing pictures of other Tecnomodel cars I shouldn't expect CMC or Exoto levels of detail. I thought it would be more or less comparable to Spark, but I guess I should think again. It's not all horrible either, just far below from what I would have expected it to be. The front suspension is a good example of that. The visible elements are decent, nothing very special either, but it's the part behind it that it's pretty lackluster at best. A model of this caliber should be showing more of the inside, like the tube frame the suspension is mounted on, the steering housing or part of the fuel tank. On this model it's a simple blocked off silver grey panel. The opening on the engine bay too is way too shallowly detailed. At least it's not blocked off like on the front of the car, but it all looks just too plain and simple. And there's so much more to be added to make it look decent at least. This grey plastic arch piece here is yet another good example of how poorly the model is detailed. It should be a sort of bungee cord holding the engine cover in place, but here on the model it's a cheap looking plastic piece. The engine trumpets on the other side of the car then too are way too simplified. They easily could have been made to look better with some fine leads or hoses attached to these parts. For this hole in the rear of the car you could pretty much say the same thing. The long rear suspension arms too then look way too plain and simple, it's like they're not even trying. Even the fancy base can't lift this model to a next level. The grey carpet is not cut to fit the base perfectly, there's quite a lot of overhanging material on the back. Like almost everything on this model, it looks good at first, but then you'll notice all the many corners they have been cutting everywhere. To cap it off, the worst part of this model is the figurine. Again, it looks quite okay at first, but then you notice that the head doesn't even come close to looking like Sir Stirling Moss. I do realize that making a likeness of someone is very hard, and a lot of model makers actually struggle with that, but even if you put that aside, then there are the arms of the figurine still, and I can already hear you thinking, what's wrong with them? They look fine. Well, yes, they look fine, but look closer and how they are actually fully stretched out and straight. They are just way too short. They should be slightly bent, like yours would be sitting behind the wheel of your car. And this figurine realistically couldn't reach the gear stick lever without moving his whole body. And it starts to look really weird when you take all of that into account. And all of the things I mentioned are the most obvious shortcomings on this model. I haven't even touched on the other tiny details like the missing tire valves or the fact that I think a model in this price range should have embossed tire sidewalls like you have on the CMC models, for example. After all of that, are there still any positives left then? Well, in some ways yes, but you have to have a whole mentality shift and a small dab of amnesia to actually see them. I'll start by saying that the overall look at a first and rather quick glance is quite good. I think proportion wise it's even fine, and the open panels make it look much more detailed than it really is. The base 2 then gives you a false sense of this being a high quality model. Then there are actually some finer details on the model too, like the photo etched grille in the nose hole, these fine photo etched Dieses fasteners, or these black leads connected to the brake calipers on all 4 wheels. The cockpit detailing then, including the things we can see through the open panels, it's not too bad. It's certainly not mega, but at best looks okay. The pedal box, part of the fuel tank with this piping going towards the back of the car, the chassis tube frame, this, I think it's an electrical box, the side panel with these switches on it, the gear stick lever on the other side, it's all okay looking. The red seat, dashboard and steering wheel too is correct and contrasts nicely with the rest of the car. The figurine, aside from the head and the short arms, is not all bad either. The typical light blue color of the suit is correct, as is the asymmetrical seam from the zipper. The seatbelts then seem to be missing, but in fact the Lotus 18 didn't yet have seatbelts, only the attachments were mandated in 1961. Finally then, the wheels too look okay. They've got the typical hexagonal spoke shaping correct in white with a fine silver colored ring around it. The tires too seem to be shaped accurately, and the tread too looks quite realistic. So this Tecnomodel Lotus is thus not all bad, and there are certainly some good parts on it for sure. When I mentioned you need a mentality shift to see the good things, I meant that if you forget how expensive this model is and that it's supposed to be a high quality model car, then you can see through all of its flaws and accept it as a decent depiction of the Lotus 18. It really looks quite fine at first glance, and the overall details are good enough. It's only when you really start looking at these small details you'll notice that they are lacking in quality or even lacking altogether. And for a brand that advertises these models as being upmarket, high quality, faithful reproductions, it's really far below par. I'd say its price is maybe its biggest flaw, and it's actually what held me back from buying it at first. As I have been waiting for so long to finally have a model of this particular car, my mind has screwed me over by telling me to like this model despite all of its obvious flaws. I know it sounds crazy and I really shouldn't say it out loud, but I do kinda like it still. I'll just bang my head on my desk a few times before I take a look at it again so my vision is blurry and I'll forget how much I actually spent on it. This collection thing is a very irrational hobby, and this model really takes it to the next level for me. I know it's an overpriced, pretentious, underwhelming toy, but here we are, and I even made a video of it. So yeah, roast me down in the comments for getting this model and saying that I actually like it. I look forward to reading them. So thanks for watching me wasting your time by trying to justify the unjustifiable. Please do not leave a like this time, as this model is not worth it. Don't forget, I do have some sensible reviews as well, like this one on another 60s icon, the Jim Clark Lotus 33 by Spark. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, and in the meantime, take care and I'm sorry.